Now, today we come to Mesika Sangha, a compendium of mixed categories. So the categories treated in this section are of mixed nature. That means they are not akusala only, they are not those that lead to enlightenment only, and they are not all embracing. So they will be mixed. So we will find both kusala, akusala, and abhyagata among them. Now the first of those categories is hetu, or roots. So you are already familiar with roots, and there are said to be 6 roots, 3 akusala roots and 3 kusala and abhyagata roots. The first lobha, the second dosa, and the third moha are akusala roots, and 4th, 5th, and 6th are lobha, adosa, and amoha are kusala and abhyagata. These 6, actually they are 6 cetasikas. These 6 cetasikas serve as roots for the concomitant cetas and cetasikas. So they are called roots, like roots of a tree. And lobha is identified as lobha cetasika, dosa as dosa, moha as moha, alobha as alobha, adosa as adosa, and amoha as amoha. So they are just the names of the original cetasikas. So there is no difficulty in identifying these hetus. The next category is of jhananga. You are already familiar with many of the things treated in this section. But here we must understand jhana differently. When we see the word jhana, we always understand it to mean rupavachara and arupavachara jhanas. But here, in this mixed categories, jhana should be understood as something which look the object closely. Not only jhana, not only what we have understood as jhanas, but also some other dhammas or some other cetasikas which can be called jhana. Because the definition of the word jhana is to look closely, to contemplate closely, and also to burn the mental hindrances. So here jhana should be understood to mean the cetasikas which look closely at the object. Now in the guide it is said of close contemplation, but contemplation may mean something like a meditation. So here we do not necessarily mean meditation like contemplation, just watching, just looking. And we are familiar with 5 jhanangas, 5 factors of jhana. They are initial application, sustained application, joy, ekagata, one-pointedness of mind, and then vedana, right? Sukha and ubekha. But here there are 7 jhanangas mentioned. First is vitakka, and you know vitakka, and vichara, Vitaka is initial application, vichara, sustained application, piti, joy, ekagata is ekagata. And then somanasa. Somanasa is feeling, vedana. Domanasa is also feeling vedana. And ubekha, also feeling vedana. So, according to this section, domanasa is also a jhananga. Not because it is a constituent of what we know to be jhana, but because it looks at the object closely. And identification is also not difficult. So vitaka is vitaka, vichara is vichara, piti is piti, ekagata is ekagata, and somanasa is feeling vedana, domanasa is vedana, and ubekha vedana. So it's easy. The next category is magganga, factors of magga. Now, here also we should understand magga differently. The usual meaning of magga in magganga is the path that leads to nibbana. But here, magga means something that leads to some place, some realm, some existence. And you will find among them the akusala cetasikas also. So the first is samadhi, and samadhi is identified with amoha or panya. Samma sankappa identified with vitaka. Samma sankappa, right thought, means thoughts of renunciation, thoughts of non-killing. And then the third one is thought of non-cruelty. Now, the second one is the opposite of the thoughts to kill. You want someone to die. So such a thought is called vyapada vitaka. And the third one is, the opposite of the third one is vihingsa vitaka. That means a thought of cruelty. So samma sankappa is the opposite of these three. So it is the thought of renunciation, thought of non-killing, and the third is the thought of non-cruelty. And these three are all identified with the cetasika vitaka, initial application. Number 3 is samma vacha. You all know that. Right speech. That means abstention from 4 wrong kinds of speech. Number 4, samma kammanta, right action, abstention from 3 wrong deeds. And number 5, samma ajiva, right livelihood. So abstention from the 4 verbal misconduct and 3 bodily misconduct, which are one's livelihood. Number 6 is samma vayama, right effort. That is the cetasika viriya. And number 7, samma sati, mindfulness, right mindfulness. It is identified with sati. And number 8, samma samadhi, right concentration, is identified with ekaggata, one-pointedness of mind. These 8 are the usual ones we met in many places. Now come the 4 which are not samma but Miccha. So among the four, the first one is Miccha Ditti, wrong view, wrong vision or wrong view. Right? And it is identified with Ditti Cetasika among the Akusala Cetasikas. Number 10 is, or the second of the four is Miccha Sankappa. So Miccha Sankappa is the opposite of Samma Sankappa. So thoughts of sensual desires, thoughts of killing, and thoughts of cruelty. And all three are identified with the Cetasika Vitaka. And then the third among the four is Miccha Vayama, wrong effort. That is the Virya Cetasika accompanying the Akusala Cetas. And the fourth among the four is Miccha Samadhi, and it is identified with Ekagata. Sometimes Ekagata can be Miccha, wrong Ekagata. When your mind is concentrated on some wrong activity or some wrong act, then it is called Miccha Samadhi. So it can be exemplified by one fishing. So when a person is fishing, his concentration is on the killing the fish. So at that time he has some kind of samadhi, but it is Miccha Samadhi, a wrong kind of concentration. So these are the 8 maggangas, or 8 factors of path. Now here path means that which leads to attainment of Nibbana as well as to other rebirths or existences. Now among them, you know about Samadhi. There are different kinds of Samadhi. How many do you remember? 3? Okay, what are the 3? No, that is concentration. Yeah, this is right understanding. Samadhi. True?
Yeah, the first just understanding by the book or the vision in the
Not that. Kammasakata Samadhi. That is understanding of law of karma, understanding that beings have karma as their own property, right? That is called Kammasakata Samadhi. And then Vipassana Samadhi. You know Vipassana Samadhi, seeing phenomena as impermanent, suffering, and no soul. And then Magga Samadhi, Samadhi accompanying the Magga Citta, and Phala Samadhi accompanying Phala. And then Pacca Vikkana Samadhi, that accompanying the reviewing consciousness that follows the attainment of enlightenment. Sometimes jhana samadhi is also mentioned. So samadhi or amoha, which accompanies jhana chetas. So there are different kinds of samadhi. So samadhi can be mundane as well as supramundane. So Kammasakata samadhi and Vipassana samadhi are mundane. Magga samadhi and Phala samadhi are supramundane. Paccavekkhana samadhi and Jhana samadhi are again mundane. Okay, now, although there are 8, let's say, good factors of path, there are only bad factors of path. Miccha Detti, Miccha Sankappa, Miccha Vayama, Miccha Samadhi. So there are no Miccha Vacha, right? Miccha Kammanta, Miccha Ajiva, Miccha Sati. Now, in some suttas, they are mentioned in some discourses. But they are not separate mental factors, separate jitasikas. So that is why in Abhidhamma they are not mentioned. Now I think I told you about Miccha Sati at one time. I don't know whether you remember that. Miccha Sati. So there is nothing as Miccha Sati actually, because Sati is a Sopana Jitasika, right? So as a Sopana Jitasika, it accompanies or it arises together with what? Kusala Chetas and some Vibhaga Chetas and Kiriya Chetas, right? So it never accompanies Akusala Cheta. So according to reality, there is no Miccha Sati. But in some suttas, Buddha mentioned Miccha Sati and Miccha Detti and so on. So the commentaries there explain that there is no such thing as a Miccha Sati actually. But when you remember something you did wrong in the past, then it is said to be Miccha Sati. Actually, that is not sati, but remembering sanya and other akusala consciousness and its concomitants. And there may be Miccha Vaja, right? Miccha Kammanta, Miccha Ajiva. But these also are not separate Cetasikas, and so they are not mentioned here. When you tell lies, then there is Miccha Vaja actually. But it is not a separate Cetasika, but just the Akusala Chitta and the Cetasikas accompanying it. So it is not mentioned among the factors of Magga here. So there are only 4 bad factors of Magga in this section. Next category is of 22 Indriyas. Now, the word Indriya is translated as faculty in English. The literal meaning of Indriya is governing or having authority. So these that are called Indriyas exercise their authority in their respective fields, in their respective domains. For example, the eye sensitivity. Eye sensitivity is called an indriya because it exercises authority on seeing. Now, when the eye sensitivity is strong, then seeing is also strong, and when the eye sensitivity is weak, the seeing is weak, and so on. So it controls the eye sensitivity controls the quality of seeing. In the same way, ear sensitivity and so on. So they are called indriyas. So in their respective domains, they are bosses. In the domain of seeing, eye sensitivity is the boss. In the domain of hearing, ear sensitivity is the boss, and so on. So there are 22 indriyas. The first one is Chakkhundriya, Chakku indriya. So it is identified with Chakku pasada among the 28 rupas. Number 2, Sotindriya, ear faculty. It is identified with Sota pasada, ear sensitivity. 3, Ghanindriya, nose faculty, is identified with Ghana pasada, nose faculty. And 4, Jihvindriya is identified with Jihva pasada, tongue faculty is identified with tongue sensitivity. And number 5, Kayindriya, faculty of Kaya, faculty of body, is identified with Kaya pasada, body sensitivity. And then number 6, Ittindriya, is identified with Ittibhava. So femininity faculty is identified with femininity rupa. And number 7, Purisindriya, masculinity faculty, is identified with Pumbhava among the 28 rupas. And then number 8, Jivitindriya, life faculty. Jivitindriya is identified with 2 of the Paramattha Dhammas. 1, Nama Jivitindriya, and 2, Rupa Jivitindriya. So, Jivitindriya is identified with the Cetasika Jivitindriya and Rupa Jivitindriya. Number 9, Manendriya. Mana means mind. So, it is mind faculty or Chitta faculty. So, it is identified with all Chittas. Number 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They are feeling indriyas. The first is Sukhindriya. So, it is identified with Sukha Vedana. And number 11, let's say number 11. Number 11, Dukkhindriya, is identified with Dukkha Vedana. Number 12, Somanasindriya, with Somanasa Vedana. Number 13, Domanasindriya, with Domanasa Vedana. And Ubbekindriya, with Ubbeka Vedana. So actually these 5 are identified with just one Cetasika, which is Vedana. And then number 15, Saddhindriya, is identified with the Cetasika Saddha, so faculty of faith. Viriyendriya, the energy faculty or effort faculty, is identified with Viriya. Number 17, Satindriya, is identified with Sati, mindfulness. Number 18, Samadhindriya, concentration faculty, identified with one-pointedness or Ekagata. Number 19, Panyendriya. Panyendriya, wisdom faculty. It is identified with amoha. And then number 20, a long name. Ananyatanyasami Tendriya. Sometimes names can be very long, like Nivasanya, Nasanya, Yudana. Now, Ananyatanyasami Tendriya. Let us divide the word. Ananyatang, that is one word. Nyasami, another word. Iti, another word. Indriya, another word. So lay words combined to become one compound. Ananyatang, nyasami, iti, indriya. Now, you have to know Pali to join these these four words into one compound, and there is the coalition of vowels also. Now, ananyata means not known before. Nyasami means I will know. Iti means thus thinking, something like that. Indriya is Indriya. So the literal meaning of the word Ananyatanyasami Tendriya is the faculty of him who practices with the thought, I will know what has not been known by me before. You don't get this from the manual, from the translation of the manual. So please note it carefully. The faculty of whom, the faculty of him who practices with the thought, I will know what has not been known by me before. So when you practice vipassana meditation, you have this kind of intention. You will know what is not known to you before. You try to know, you try to see what you have not seen before. And as a result of that practice, you get the first stage of enlightenment. So the knowledge or wisdom at the first stage of enlightenment, or that accompanies Sotabati Magga, is called Ananyatanyasami Tendriya. Later on, the manual itself will show the identification. And then the next one is Anyendriya. Anyendriya. Anya Indriya. Anya here means knowing within the limit. And that means this faculty knows within the limit of what has been known before, what has been known by the first path. Actually, the path consciousness, all four types of path consciousness know the Four Noble Truths. So these, the Panya, which accompanies Sotapatti, Palacita, and so on, is called Anya, because it knows within the limit of those already known by the first path. Therefore, Anyendriya means the faculty which knows within the limit of those known by the first path. It will be identified with amoha or panya accompanying Sotabatti Palacita up till Arahata Magga Ceta. And the last one is Anyatawindriya. Anyatavi Indriya. Anyatavi means one who has fully known. That means Arahant. So the Indriya of Anyatavi is called Anyatavindriya, the faculty of him who has fully known the Four Noble Truths. And this is identified with Panya accompanying the Arahata Phala Citta. So these three cover the Panya which accompanies the 8 Lokutara Cettas. Actually, these are all identified with the Cetasika Amoha. So the first Panyendriya is Amoha, second Ananya Tanyasami Tindriya is Amoha, Anyendriya is Amoha, and Anyatavindriya is Amoha. The first one, Panyendriya, is a general faculty, and the knowing faculty. But the other three are actually the different functions of that amoha. So it functions as Sotapatti, at the moment of Sotapatti Magga, and then the second functions at the moment of Sotapatti Phala until Arahata Magga, and the last functions at the moment of Arahata Phala. So they are separated into three different indriyas. And the first one may be both mundane and supramundane. Panyendriya may be both mundane and supramundane, but the other three, beginning with number 20, are supramundane only. Next category is Bala. Bala means strength, power. So there are 9 powers, 9 Cetasikas that are called powers. The first one is Saddha Bala. It is identified with the Cetasika Saddha, faith power, or the power of faith. Viriya, and second is Viriya Bala, the power of effort or energy, the power of Viriya. So it is identified with the Cetasika Viriya. Number 3, Sati Bala, mindfulness power, and it is identified with Sati, mindfulness. Number 4, Samadhi Bala, concentration power. It is identified with Ekaggata. And number 5, Panya Bala, is identified with Amoha Cetasika. Number 6, Hiri Bala, power of shame or shame power, is identified with Hiri, and Ottappa Bala is identified with Ottappa. And number 8, Ahirika Bala, is identified with the Cetasika Ahirika, and number 9, Anottappa Bala, is identified with the Cetasika Anottappa. Now, why are they called Bala or power? Now there are two reasons why they are called Bala. One reason is they cannot be shaken by the opposites. When there is saddha, faith, a strong faith, then this strong faith cannot be shaken by unfaith. And when there is strong virya, it cannot be shaken by laziness. But if your virya is not strong, if your virya does not reach the stage of bala, then dizziness may win and you will lose. So when it reaches the stage of bala, power or strength, then it cannot be shaken by its opposite of laziness. The same with sati and so on. So one reason for their being called power is that they cannot be shaken by their opposites. Another reason why they are called bala is that they strengthen their concomitants. They are strong in the concomitants. Now, why am I telling you this? Among the balas, from number 1 to number 7, some are good, some almost all of them are good, right? Yeah. But number 8 and number 9 are akusala. Now, kusala and akusala. It is said in the books that akusala cannot eradicate kusala, but kusala can eradicate akusala. Magga, right? Magga is kusala. So magga can eradicate akusala, but no akusala can eradicate kusala. We are fortunate there. Otherwise, we will not get kusala. So, number 8 and number 9 are called power, not because they cannot be shaken by their opposites. They can be shaken by their opposites because they are akusala, and so they can be eradicated by kusala. They are called power because they are strong in their concomitants, or they strengthen their concomitants. So they may be strong by themselves, but when they meet with stronger kusala states, they cannot stand, they will lose. So the first 7 are called power for both reasons. They cannot be shaken by their opposites, and also they strengthen their concomitants. The last 2 are called power only because they strengthen their concomitants, and not because they cannot be shaken by their opposites. Okay, next. Adhipati. Predominance. There are 4 adhipatis. Now, adhipati means lord or overlord. A person who is who has the absolute power, something like that. And there are said to be 4 of these, 4 adhipatis or 4 predominants. And the predominance of factors which dominate the chetas to which they belong in undertaking and accomplishing difficult or important tasks. That is explained in the guide. Now, actually, these are the factors which dominate not only chetas, but which dominate the concomitant states, which dominate the connascent states. For example, say the first kusala cheta, right? And with the first kusala cheta, there are 38 cetasikas. First kusala, no? 38 cetasikas. Among them, then there are chanda, viriya, and amoha, banya, right? And the cheta itself. So when Chaita is an adipati, it dominates over all the Chaitasikas. When Chanda is adipati, then it dominates over the Chaita and the other 36 Chaitasikas. When Viriya is an adipati, it dominates over the Chaita and other 36 Chaitasikas. Again, when Panya predominates, or Panya is an adipati, it dominates over the Chaita and the other 36 Chaitasikas. 37 Chaitasikas, no, not 36, 37 Chaitasikas. So, the predominance of factors which dominate not only the Chaitas, which dominate its concomitant states or connascent states. Now, they also exercise authority, and so we should understand the difference between Indriya and Adipati. Adipati is an overlord, so it exercises supreme control over the concomitants. But the Indriyas are not like that. Indriyas exercise control in their own domain, but not over others. But Adipati controls over others. So that is the difference. So the Adipati is compared to a king who has absolute power over everything, and the Indriyas are compared to ministers, who have authority in their own, in their own offices, but they don't have authority over other branch of ministries. So that is the difference. Since Adipati is an overlord exercising the absolute power, there can be only one Adipati at a time. If there are two, they cannot be called Adipati because they have to share the authority. So there can be only one Adipati at a time, while there can be many faculties at the same time. Again, the first Kusala Chaita and 38 Chaitasikas. Now, among the Chaitasikas, there is Saddha, right? And Viriya, Sati, Samadhi, Panya. Those are all faculties, right? And Hiri is Bala. And Vedana can also become faculty, right? So, when the first Kusala Chaita arises, it is accompanied by 38 Chaitasikas. And among these 38 Chaitasikas, faith and others exercise authority over their own domains, over their own function. That means in the function of believing or having faith, then Saddha is the boss. But in being mindful, it is not the boss. In being mindful, then Sati is the boss, and so on. But if Chaita is an Adipati at that time, then Chaita has authority over all of them. So that is the difference between Adipati and Indriya. So Adipati is just one, exercising absolute authority over all, but Indriyas are those that exercise authority in their own domain only. And there are 4 Adipatis. The first is Chanda Adipati, Now here chanda means the Cetasika chanda, not lobha. Sometimes lobha is described as chanda, like in the word kamat chanda. But here chanda means just the chanda Cetasika, the will to do, or desire to do. Sometimes chanda can be an adipati. Okay, sometimes chanda can be an adipati or predominant. So when chanda is predominant, then all other concomitants have to follow it. So when chanda is predominant, then you can accomplish things. Now the chanda of Sumedha, the Bodhisattva Sumedha, was so great that if someone would say, if you can walk over a field of glowing embers, say from this side of the wall to the other side of the wall, and you will become a Buddha. If you reach the other wall, then he would walk on these glowing embers. So great was his chanda at that time. So sometimes chanda can be predominant, and when chanda is predominant, you can accomplish things. The same with viriya dipati, the second one. Sometimes viriya can be predominant. So you have so much energy, so much effort that you are successful in your undertakings. Number 3 is citta dipati. So citta can be also predominant, and when also the citta is predominant, you can accomplish things. And number 4 is vimamsa dipati. Investigation predominant, but actually investigation means not just investigating but understanding after investigation. So it is identified with amoha or panya. So these are 4 adipatis. So sometimes chanda is adipati, sometimes viriya, sometimes citta, sometimes vimamsa. Number 4, the next group is ahara, food. But here ahara does not mean food, but condition or cause. Number 1 is kabalikara ahara, that is edible food, actually the nutriment which is in the food we eat. And this kabalikara ahara or nutriment brings about the 8 rupas born of ahara. That is why it is called ahara. Now, the word ahara means bringing. That means bring about effects. So kabalikara is called ahara because it brings about the 8 pure octet caused by nutriment. Second is phassa. Phassa is called ahara because it brings about what? Remember the dependent origination. Vedana. So it brings Vedana. Only when there is phassa can there be Vedana, right? First there is phassa or contact, and only after contact there is Vedana. Actually, phassa and Vedana arise at the same time, but there must be phassa in order for the Vedana to arise. So phassa brings Vedana, so it is called ahara. And number 3 is Mano sanchetana, that means just chetana. Mental volition, mano sanchetana, and that is chetana among the chetasikas. What does chetana bring? Vipaka. Yeah. In the books it is said Pradisandhi, right? So kusala chetana, akusala chetana, right? So kusala chetana and akusala chetana brings about rebirth, Pradisandhi. And then number 4, vijnana. Vijnana brings about, again, paticcasamuppada, namarupa, right? So vijnana is called ahara because it brings about nama and rupa. So when there is no vijnana, there is no nama and rupa. So nama and rupa are said to be conditioned by vijnana, or said to be brought by vijnana. So vijnana is called ahara. Now, Kavaligara ahara is identified with the rupa ahara. Phassa is identified with phassa, mano sanchetana with chetana, and vijnana with citta. Now, in the guide, it is said, according to the Sutanta method of explanation, edible food as nutriment sustains the physical body. So brings about and sustains mean the same thing. Contact sustains feeling. Mental volition sustains rebirth into 3 realms of existence. Because volition is karma and karma generates rebirth. And consciousness sustains the compound of mind and body. Now this is according to Sutanta method. According to Abhidhamma method, edible food sustains the material phenomena of fourfold origination in the body. And the other 3 nutriments sustain all their connascent mental and material phenomena. In order to understand this, you must understand Patthana. Now, when we say ahara, we understand in two ways. Ahara means condition or cause which sustains something or which brings about something. But ahara in Patthana is different. For example, mano sanchetana. Now, chetana brings about rebirth. But in Patthana, they are not said to be related by way of ahara, condition. They are connected by, related by way of karma condition, not by ahara condition. But according to Sutanta, we say chetana is the ahara of Pradisandhi. That means chetana is the cause of, chetana is the condition of Pradisandhi. But according to Patthana, their relationship is not by way of nutrition condition, but by way of karma condition. So, according to Sutanta method, there is one explanation, and according to Abhidhamma method, there is another explanation. Whereas edible food as matter is indeterminate, or that is, the first one is abhyagata, right? Vipaka cetas, kiriya cetas, and rupa are called, rupa and nibbana are called abhyagata. So, the first one, ahara, Kavaligara ahara is abhyagata. Phassa can be kusala or akusala or abhyagata. Chetana also, cheta also. Okay. Now clarifications. on page 275. But I've already explained that. Herein, among the faculties, it is explained that the faculty, I will know the unknown, is the knowledge of the path of stream entry. So, the Ananya Tanya Sami Tindriya should be identified with amoha, accompanying the path of stream entry or Sotabadi Magga. The faculty of one who has final knowledge, that means Anyendriya, is the knowledge of the fruit of, the faculty of one who has final knowledge means Anyatawendriya, the last one. The faculty of one who has final knowledge is the knowledge of the fruit of arahantship. That means amoha accompanying arahata phala. The faculty of final knowledge, that is Anyendriya, is the 6 intermediate kinds of supramundane knowledge. Now there are 8 lokuttara cetas. Panya accompanying the first lokuttara ceta is Ananya Tanya Sami Tindriya. Panya accompanying the last lokuttara ceta is Anyata Windriya. And Panya accompanying the middle 6, beginning with Sotabadi Phala, ending with Arhata Magga, is called Anyendriya. So, Ananya Tanya Sami Tindriya must be identified with Panya accompanying Sotabadi Magga Ceta. Anyendriya must be identified with Panya accompanying Sotabadi Phala Ceta, Sakadagami Magga, Sakadagami Phala, Anagami Magga, Anagami Phala, Arhata Magga Cetas. And Anyata Windriya should be identified with Panya accompanying the Arhata Phala Ceta. So, clarification here means just identification. Now, I'm not happy with the translation here, final knowledge. I don't know why he translates this as final knowledge, Anya. Now, the word Anya in Anyendriya, that word is a combination of the preposition are and nya, the root nya. The root nya means to know, knowing. But the preposition are here means a limit. So anya means knowing within the limit of Sotabadi Magga, within the limits of what has been seen by Sotabadi Magga. So that is not final knowledge. Final knowledge should be the Arhata Phala Jnana, right? Or we can say Arhata Magga may be called final knowledge, but not the Sotabadi Phala, Sakadagami Magga, and so on. So the translation final knowledge is, I think, not so correct. Okay, now come some complicated and a little difficult. Clarifications, let us go. Now, the jhana factors are not found in the 5-fold sense consciousness. That means in Dvipancha Vijnana Cetas. Dvipancha Vijnana Cetas are altogether 10. And what are they? 2 seeing consciousnesses, 2 hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching consciousnesses. So, in these 10 consciousnesses, there are no jhana factors. That means they do not acquire the stature of jhana factors. Although they may be present with And these consciousnesses, they are not called jhanas. Now, how many cetasikas arise with seeing consciousness? Only 7, right? The first 7. So among the first 7, let's count the 7. Phassa, Vedana, Sanya, Cetana, Ekagata, Jivitendriya, Manasikala. Right? Okay. Is Phassa a Jhananga? No. Is Vedana Jhananga? Actually, generally speaking, yes. Right? Because Vedana is among the Jhanangas, Jhana factors. But Vedana here, with the seeing consciousness, is not called a Jhananga. It is not called Jhananga. Because the 10 the sense chetas are so weak that they just have contact with object, and so there is no looking the object closely, taking the object closely. So although Vedana is concomitant with the seeing consciousness, that Vedana is not called a Jhananga. Vedana will be called Jhananga when it accompanies, say, other types of consciousness, right? And also, with seeing consciousness, there is Ekagata, right? Generally speaking, Ekagata is also one of the Jhanangas. But when it accompanies seeing consciousness, it is not called Jhananga. It has no status of jhana. It is also, although it is ekagata, one-pointedness, it is very, very weak. So, we have to understand this. Although they arise with these chetas, or although generally they are called jhanangas, and also some others, they are not really jhanangas when they accompany these particular types of consciousnesses. So, the jhana factors are not found means they are not reckoned as jhana factors, although they are found with fivefold sense consciousness. Right? So, with fivefold sense consciousness, there arise Vedana and Ekagata. Right? Yeah. So both Vedana and Ekagata are not called Jhanangas when they accompany these five sensefold types of consciousness. The powers in those kinds of consciousness that are without energy, without virya. Now you have to go back to the second chapter. Those that are not accompanied by virya. How many? There are 16 of them. What are they? 10 vibhaga vijnanas, sampatichana, santirana, panchadvara vajana, right? These 16. So these 16 chetas are not accompanied by virya. So in those chetas, or with those chetas, we cannot have powers or balas. So let us see. Again, let us take 10 sense consciousnesses, right? Let us just say seeing consciousness. With seeing consciousness, there is ekagata. Ekagata is among the powers, right? If you look at the list, you find the power there. But Ekaggata is not called power when it accompanies seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, and so on. And Sampadichana. Ekaggata accompanies Sampadichana, right? Yeah. But when it accompanies Sampadichana, it is not called power. When it accompanies Santirana, it is not called power. When it accompanies Panchadvara Vajana, it is not called power. Okay. Or the path factors in those that are rootless. So in Ahiduka Chetas, there are no Maggangas. So let us see Sampadishana Cheta first. So we'll come later. So you cannot get rootless, you cannot get Maggangas in Ahituka Chetas. So let's say Vitaka, right? Vitaka is a Magganga, Samma Sankappa. Okay. Now Vitaka accompanies Sampadicana Cheta, right? Vitaka does not accompany 10 sense Chetas, right? So Vitaka accompanies Sampadicana Cheta. But when it accompanies Sampadicana Cheta, it is not called a Magganga. The same with when it accompanies Santirana, Panchadvara Vajana, Manodvara Vajana, and Hasitupara, because they are all Ahituka Chetas. So in Ahituka Chetas there are no Maggangas. So too in the consciousness accompanied by doubt, here comes Vicikiccha. One-pointedness does not attain to the stature of path factor, a faculty, or a power. So, in the Vicikiccha Cheta, Ekaggata is not Magga, not Magganga, not Indriya, not Bala. Okay, now let us come to Vicikiccha Cheta. So, Ekaggata accompanies Vicikiccha Cheta, right? Because Ekaggata accompanies every type of consciousness. But when it accompanies Vicikiccha Cheta, it is not called a Bala. And then what? Vicikiccha Cheta, right? Ekaggata, right. Hold down there. It is not called a Magganga. And it is not called an Indriya. So if you remember this, then you can find out which attains the stature of Jhananga, Magganga, Bala, and so on. So let us go back. Jhanangas are not found in Dvipanja Vijnana, right? So no Jhanangas in Dvipanja Vijnana. And then no Balas in those without Viriya, right? And no Magganga in Ahituka Chetas. And no Magganga, Indriya, and Bala in Vicikiccha Cheta, right? So the chart gives you a detail. Now look at the chart. Ekaggata and Vedana are not Jhananga in Dvipanja Vijnana. So let us say Kaya Vijnana. There are two kaya vinyanas. One, the result of akusala, and the other, result of kusala. So the result of akusala is accompanied by what feeling? Dukkha. So dukkha accompanying the kaya vinyana of the result of akusala is not a jhananga. And the same with sukha vedana. Sukha vedana accompanying the body consciousness is not a jhananga. And then ubekha vedana accompanying the seeing, hearing, smelling and tasting consciousness is not jhananga. So ekagata and vedana are not jhananga in Dvipancha Vijnana. And ekagata is not bala in Dvipancha Vijnana, Sampatichana, Santirana, Panchadvara Vajana and Vichikicca Ceta. And Vitaka is not Maganga in actually all Ahituka Cetas. Sampatichana, Santirana, Panchadvara Vajana, Manodvara Vajana and Hasitopada. Viriya is not Maganga in Manodvara Vajana and Hasitopada. Because they are Ahituka Cetasikas. Ahituka Cetas. And Ekagata is not Maganga in 18 Ahituka Cetas and Vichikicca Ceta. And Ekagata again is not Indriya in Vichikicca Ceta. Two Mohamula Cetas and Hasitopada. Now, how many javanas are there? 55 javanas. How many javanas are accompanied by only one hetu? Two Mohamula Cetas, right? And how many are not accompanied by any hetu? One, Hasitopada. So, two Mohamula Cetas and one Hasitopada Ceta, right? They are not adipati. They cannot attain to the stage of adipati because Mohamula Cetas are just wavering Cetas and Vichikicca and Oddhaja, and so they cannot have this strong ability to exercise authority over others. And Hasitopada Ceta has no roots, and so it cannot attain to the stature of adipati. So, two Mohamula Cetas and Hasitopada Ceta are not adipati. Now, when we say Citta adipati, generally we would mean all Cetas, right? But actually not all Cetas are Citta adipati. Only one predominance is obtained at a time according to the circumstances and only in javanas with 2 roots and 3 roots. So only in javanas of 2 roots and 3 roots can we get adipati. So the 1 root and no root javanas do not reach the stature of adipati. And then Viriya accompanying 2 Mohamula Cetas and Hasitopada, right? Yeah. Not adipati. Chanda does not accompany 2 Mohamula Cetas and Ahituka Cetas. So there is no question of chanda here. And Vimansa means amoha, and so the amoha does not accompany these Cetas. So no problem with it. So, although ordinarily we may think that all Cetas can be adipati, actually no. Only the javanas accompanied by 2 roots and 3 roots and the Cetasikas along with them are adhipati. So when we say Chitta adhipati, we mean the jhanas accompanied by 2 roots and 3 roots. So the 2 moha mula Cettas and Hasitopara Cettas are not Chitta adhipati. And Viriya, which accompanies these 2 Cettas, is not adhipati. And there can be only one adhipati at a time. And there may be no adhipati at all. Right? So if there is adhipati at all, there is only one adhipati. But that one may not be there when none of these 4 exercise the full authority over other concomitants. So adhipati can be obtained only when it is strong enough to be an adhipati, and only when it accompanies jhanas of 2 roots and 3 roots. Okay. So we should remember this, and this will be useful when you go to Patthana. So when you come to the 8th chapter and we study about the adhipati condition, ahara condition, and magga condition and jhana condition and so on, we have to remember this. Okay, now let us look at the chart now. Mesika Sangha 2. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 categories here, right? Hetu, Jananga, Magganga, Indriya, Bala, Adhipati, and Ahara. Now we must find out. Actually, we don't have to find out. It is already found out here. We must find out how many names a certain Cetasika has in this section. So we begin with Panya because it has the most or the greatest number of names. So Panya has 5 names here in this chapter, in this section. And what are these 5? Panya means amoha, and so it is hetu, right? But it is not jananga, but it is maganga, it is indriya, bala, and adhipati. Can you tell me the name of hetu? No, name of Panya here. Concerning hetu, what is it? What is its name? Amoha. And among the maganga, samadhiti. Among the indriya, 4 indriyas, Panjendriya and 3 others. And among the bala, Panya bala. Among the adhipati, Vimamsa adhipati. Investigation adhipati. Okay, Viriya has 4 names, and they are Maganga, Indriya, Bala, and adhipati. Then what are the names? Maganga, Samavayama. Indriya, Viriyendriya. Bala, Viriya Bala. Adhipati, Viriya Adhipati. Right. And then Ekakata has 4 names. Jananga, Maganga, Indriya, Bala. So when it is Jananga, what it is called? Ekakata. And Maganga, Samma Samadhi. Indriya, Samadhi Indriya. Bala, Samadhi Bala. Sati has 3 names. Maganga, Indriya, Bala. What is Maganga? Samma Sati. Indriya, Sati Indriya, Bala, Sati Bala. And then Ceta has 3 names. Indriya, Adhipati, and Ahara. When it is Indriya, what it is called? Manindriya, mind faculty, Manindriya, and Adhipati, Chitta Adhipati, and Ahara, Vijnanahara. And then Vedana has two names, Jananga and Indriya. So if it is Jananga, Vedana, right? Somanasa, Domanasa, Ubekha, Sukha, Dukkha, right? And then Indriya, 5 Indriyas. Sukha, Dukkha, Somanasa, Domanasa, Ubekha, right? Yeah. And then Saddha, how many names? 2 names, Indriya and Bala. Saddha, Indriya, Saddha, Bala. And Vitaka, 2 names, Jananga and Maganga. When it is Jananga, it is Vitaka, and when it is Maganga, it is Samma Sankappa. And then the others have only 1 name. Lobha, Hetu, Dosa, Hetu, Moha, Hetu, Aloba, Adosa, Hetu. And Vichara, what? Jananga. Piti, Jananga. Samavacha, Maganga. Samagamanda, Sama Ajiva, Maganga. Deiti, Maganga. Samaditi and Michaditi. Oh, no. It is Michaditi only. Because we have Apanya there. Hiri, 1 name only, Hiri Bala. Ottappa Bala. Hirika Bala. Anottappa Bala. Chanda, 1 name only, Adhipati. Phassa, Ahara. Chetana, Ahara. Jivita, Nama Jivita, Indriya. Chakku Pasada, eye sensitivity, Indriya. Sota Pasada, Indriya. Ghana Pasada, Indriya. Jihva Pasada, Indriya. Kaya Pasada, Indriya. Iti Bhava, femininity, Indriya. Pum Bhava, masculinity, Indriya. And then Jivita Rupa, Indriya. And then nutriment Ahara, Ahara. So, those that have the name of Hetu, how many? Down. 6. They are Panya, Loba, Dosa, Moha, Aloba, Adosa. Those that have the name of Jananga are only 5. Ekagata, Vedana, Vitaka, Vichara, Piti. Those that have the name of Maganga, there are 9 Chaitasikas. Panya, Viriya, Ekagata, Sati, Vitaka, Samavaja, Samagamanta, Sama Ajiva, and Deiti. And then Indriyas, 16. Viriya, Ekagata, Sati, Chaita, Vedana, Saddha. Right. And then down there, Jivita. There are 2 Jivitas. Chakku, Sota, Ghana, Jiva, Kaya, Iti, Bhava, Bhum Bhava. And then Rupa Jivita. So 16. And Bala, 9. Panya or Amoha, Viriya, Ekagata, Sati, Saddha, Hiri, Ottappa, Hirika, Anottappa. Adhipati, only 4. Panya, Viriya, Chitta, and Chanda. Ahara, only 4. Chaita, Phassa, Chetana, and Ahara. Right. So, that is according to the Paramattha Dhamma. So, when we just identify the Paramattha Dhammas, there are 6 Hetus, 6 that have the name of Hetu, 5 that have the name of Jhanangas, and so on. So you go down this way. And if you want to know how many names Panya has in this section, you go across. And then you have to find out what real name it has among Jhanangas or among Indriyas and so on. Right. So that sums up all of this section. There is a summary at the end of this section. There is a summary by way of entity. That means by way of Paramattha Dhammas, the 6 roots, 5 jhana factors, and so on. So we have already covered this on this chart. Okay.